Imagine waking up to headlines screaming about a conflict just, well, exploding onto the world stage, pulling in major powers. That's exactly what we're diving into today. We're focusing on the Israel-Iran conflict, specifically this intense escalation that really kicked off around June 22nd, 2025. Our mission here is to unpack this really complex situation. We'll look at the military moves, the global ripple effects, and of course, the human impact. Okay, let's get into it. We have a stack of incredibly timely sources here, painting a vivid picture of something that's shifted dramatically in just the last few days.
It really has. And the speed of it all is fascinating. How quickly it evolved, pulling in new players, changing the whole regional dynamic. It's critical to grasp the timeline here.
Absolutely. And it seems the starting point, according to the materials, was June 13th, 2025. That's when Israel launched Operation Rising Lion. And this wasn't minor. The sources describe a massive offensive. Airstrikes hitting over 100 Iranian military and nuclear sites. We're talking Natanz, Fordo, Tehran, Isfahan.
Key locations, yeah.
Right. Using fighter jets, drones, guided munitions, the works. But here's a detail from the sources that really jumped out at me. Something happened before the main airstrikes.
The sabotage operation.
Exactly. Coordinated Mossad-led drone sabotage that apparently disabled Iranian air defense and missile systems ahead of time, basically blinding them before the punch landed.
And that's strategically huge. If we think about it, achieving air superiority or at least significantly degrading defenses like that, it's textbook modern warfare 101. It sets the stage for everything that follows. The sources mentioned, 70-plus air defense batteries taken out?
Yeah, something like that. Using F-35s, F-16s, F-15s, drones, electronic warfare, cyber attacks, a whole combination.
It wasn't just about dropping bombs. It was about dominating the airspace to allow those strikes to be effective. A critical first step, and it clearly shaped the opening moves.
That initial phase definitely set a tone, but then the next big question was the U.S. response. There was movement, initially B-2s, the USS Nimitz moving position.
Right, repositioning assets in the Indian Ocean and Pacific. There was clearly internal debate happening in Washington.
But the real game changer, the moment everything escalated further, seems to be June 22nd. That's when U.S. B-2 bombers directly struck 3 Iranian nuclear sites. Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan.
And not just any strikes. Bunker buster bombs, tomahawks, serious hardware.
Yeah. And this marks America's first sort of direct offensive action in this Pacific conflict.
Yeah.
A major threshold crossed.
It is. And this raises a big question for you listening. What does it mean when a superpower like the U.S. steps in so directly with such precise and powerful force into an ongoing conflict? It sends a massive signal, not just to Iran, but globally. Tehran likely saw this as, the U.S. fully committing, previous red lines, gone.
And Iran's reaction reflected that. The sources say they immediately denounced it as an all-out war.
Strong language.
Very. And threatened retaliation, calling the whole situation very dangerous for everybody. They clearly saw it as a massive escalation.
Understandably so. Direct U.S. strikes on nuclear facilities. That's a line few expected to be crossed so overtly.
And they didn't just talk. Iran responded forcefully. The reports detail over 450 missiles and, get this, 1,000 drones launched at Israel.
A huge barrage. Just the sheer numbers are staggering.
They are. Now, apparently most were intercepted Israel's defenses, like Iron Dome and David's Sling, clearly worked overtime.
Testament to their capabilities, yes, but volume has a quality all its own in these situations.
Exactly. Some got through, and they hit civilian targets, causing, the reports say, 25-plus Israeli deaths and hundreds injured. And there's one specific, quite jarring detail. A Sedjil missile hit Soroka Hospital in Beersheba.
Oh, wow. Hospital.
Yeah. Injuring many. And the sources even mention suspected chemical exposure there. It really underscores the danger to civilians.
It absolutely does. That highlights the tragic reality, doesn't it? Even with sophisticated defenses, civilian populations inevitably suffer in modern conflict. Iran's response was clearly a show of force, but the impact on civilians, like the hospital strike, it's a brutal consequence, intentional or not.
And speaking of the human cost, let's look at the broader numbers from the sources. They are pretty grim. For Iran, estimates range from at least 430 to 657 killed. And significantly, over 263 of those are listed as civilians, plus over 3,500 wounded.
Heavy casualties. And on the Israeli side,
Over 25 killed is mentioned and around 2,368 wounded. Plus, significant property damage from those missiles and drones that got through. And beyond the casualties, the infrastructure damage is extensive too. Military sites on both sides took hits, air defenses, missile launchers, cyber centers, those nuclear centrifuge sites in Iran.
But also civilian structures.
Right. Hospitals like Soroka, residential buildings. The impact spreads far beyond the military sphere.
And this connects directly to the broader humanitarian picture. We're not just talking about destroyed buildings. We're talking about lives completely upended. The sources mention massive displacement from Tehran, people fleeing their homes.
Thousands. Potentially more.
And internal unrest being reported, possibly fueled by internet blackouts, which also raise fear and uncertainty. You can just imagine the chaos and fear. It's more than just a battlefield. It's a potential humanitarian crisis unfolding. Think about refugees, the need for aid. It could get very serious very quickly.
And the regional, the global reaction, pretty much what you'd expect. Alarm.
Widespread concern, yes.
The UN, EU, Turkey, Egypt, the UAE, all calling for diplomacy for de-escalation. Meanwhile, you have Russia and China watching very closely.
Understandably. Concerns about a wider war and always that lurking fear of nuclear spillover.
And internally, in the U.S., the sources touch on the debate around President Trump authorizing these strikes without Congress.
Right, sparking praise from some, criticism from others, that whole executive power debate.
Yeah. It shows the political complexities even within the nations involved.
And thinking strategically, some analysts in the sources are already suggesting Israel gained a kind of historic regional advantage here. But there's a flip side, isn't there?
How so?
Well, the caution is that trying to destabilize the Iranian regime, even if successful in the short term, might actually trigger more instability long term. You could create a power vacuum, unpredictable consequences. Sometimes the cure can be worse than the disease, strategically speaking. It's a real tightrope walk.
That's a crucial point. And looking ahead, the reports highlight a few key things we need to keep in mind. First, those Iranian nuclear sites. Many are damaged, but key parts, especially the deeply buried Fordo facility, are likely still intact.
Meaning the long-term nuclear threat probably hasn't been eliminated. Destroying Fordo would likely require, as the analyses suggest, sustained U.S. bunker busters or even special ops, a much bigger commitment.
Second, the risk of this spilling over. Still incredibly high. Think about potential proxy flare-ups.
Yeah.
Syria, Lebanon, Yemen, Iraq.
All flashpoints already. It wouldn't take much.
And third, the diplomatic track seems completely stalled. Talks in Muscat and Geneva collapsed, according to the dispatches.
A dangerous deadlock. Iran demands Israel stops. The U.S. has its own conditions and deadlines. No common ground right now.
So if we boil it all down, the bottom line, the Israel-Iran conflict, really kicking off June 13th, 2025, escalated rapidly. Israel hit hard first, using sabotage and airstrikes to target Iran's military and nuclear capabilities.
Then the U.S. jumped in directly with major airstrikes.
Right. Iran hit back with a massive missile and drone attack, causing real damage and casualties in Israel, including hitting civilian sites. Diplomacy's failed, casualties are rising, and the whole region feels like it's on a knife edge.
It's just a stark look at how quickly things can escalate. This deep dive really shows the layers, the speed, and the immense stakes involved. These aren't just regional events. They have immediate global implications for stability.
So, thinking beyond the immediate facts here, what is this level of direct U.S. engagement, this potential strategic shift we talked about? What does it really mean for the long-term power balance in the Middle East? And maybe more importantly, how do these devastating human consequences we've touched on, the deaths, the displacement, the fear, how do they continue to shape what happens next, the choices leaders make? It's certainly something that needs ongoing critical watching.
Subscribe this channel for more such daily news.